You're not some lucky combination of molecules that happened one day to crawl out of the muck onto dry land. Every cell and system in your being has care, purpose, and genius written all over it. Listen again to Psalm 139. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God! How vast is the sum of them! Were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. And you were made for more than this world sells. All that this world has to offer, no matter how appealing it is at the time, is temporary. It leaves us still hungry, wanting more, because we were made for something greater. We were created to shine the spotlight on God, to spread the fame of God everywhere we go. I wrote this book and the group discussion guide that follows to encourage you along your journey. In the pages ahead, I'll tell some stories and share some Bible truths and life lessons. And I'll introduce you to some of the people who've encouraged me the most along my road. People like Louis Giglio, founder of the Passion Movement and Six Steps Records, mentor and leader to thousands, songwriter and friend. Shelley, Louis's wife and partner in ministry, and our band's very able and very patient manager. She knows everything about all the important things that were supposed to happen hours ago, and she's still calm. I don't get it. Jesse Reeves, bass player, songwriting partner, Traveler, the name of my band, friend. He said he'd played just one time with me. That was in Lufkin, Texas, and we've been playing together ever since. Daniel Carson, guitar player, kid wonder, traveler. If you want to know how to tour full-time while you're still in high school, he's the guy to ask. My parents, Connie and Donna Tomlin, my brothers, and a grandparent or two. J.D. Walt, friend, songwriter, pastor. Some folks at Austin Stone Community Church. Ed Cash, I'm grateful. Johnny Cash, I'm kidding. When you finish, I hope you'll decide, wow, if God can use that Chris guy, then I'm way ahead of the curve. And even more, my prayer is that you'll discover in these precious days that you have been created for a great life, a life that tells the story of God. That sound you hear, the music that's changing our generation, where did it come from? If you were asked to find its roots, reproduce its sound, what would you do? Where would you go? I wonder. You might reach for an upright piano or a Stratocaster. You might tell me about a man in black rocking the house at Folsom Prison. You might want to pull out some vinyl from those old great labels like Blue Note or Motown or Sun Records. You might want to take me back to the mountains of eastern Kentucky, or to the little white churches of New England, or to the slave ships and cotton fields. If I could, I'd take you all the way back to the music of King Jehoshaphat. It was 800 B.C. or so. Huge enemy armies had lined up against King Jehoshaphat, and he knew he was in big trouble. Maybe you know the story. King Jehoshaphat couldn't think of a thing to do except pray, but when he did, God gave him a plan. The plan was music, but not just any music, a particular kind of music. Sure, God told King Jehoshaphat, send your soldiers out to battle, but send your musicians first, and tell them to lead the army into battle with worship songs. Interesting plan of attack, don't you think? Unlike your average Hollywood movie, the music in this story wasn't meant to be the soundtrack for the big fight. It was the fight. Worship was their entire battle plan. Just sing out, Jehoshaphat told his men. So they did. Praise the Lord, they sang, walking off to battle, for his mercy endures forever. Killer music, I guess you could say, because the whole enemy army was wiped out without Israel ever lifting a sword. If you ask me what music is changing our times, I'd say it's worship music like that. I'd point to another Bible story, this time to a jail cell in Philippi, where two beat-up evangelists sang hymns through the night. You might know this story too. Not long into Paul and Silas's little worship service, the earth started shaking, then the chains broke and the doors to their freedom swung open. What a breakout that was. Even the jailer in charge of the prison got saved, along with his whole family. Call it music to shake your world, music to set your generation free, music and a whole life to go with it that you and I were uniquely created for. That's what I want to explore with you in this book. Have you heard the sound I'm talking about? Filling a church or an arena, rolling in waves out across a field at a festival, or whispered around a campfire? Have you experienced the revolution I'm talking about firsthand? God is still using worship to turn people around, to stop the enemy in his tracks. Or a city, take New York for example. Jump in a yellow cab with me and I'll show you what I mean. New York is quite a place. You can hear almost every language in the world on the sidewalks there. And along with Boston, New York is at the heart of college life in America. I'm told there are 900,000 plus college students within a 75-mile radius of Times Square. We had wanted to take a Passion Movement worship event into the heart of the city for a long time. Of course, it's one thing to take worship events to college towns in the South and Midwest. These days you'll probably get a crowd, but New York is different. It's a world away from the Bible Belt, for one thing, and it's a ton more expensive. We prayed, planned, and waited, but the doors to New York remained shut. Until one afternoon last April, my band and I walked out of the New York airport and took a cab to uptown Manhattan. We were headed for the legendary Beacon Theater on Broadway and 74th, where the next day we were going to be part of putting on our first ever worship event for New York City college kids. Here's what had happened. College students across the country had stepped up to help open the door. You see, over the past months of the Passion Tour, we've been taking an offering at every concert to pay for a free event in Boston. Churches and students from Sacramento to Madison caught the vision and chipped in. Then at the concert in Boston, we challenged the students there, who aren't known for being fond of New Yorkers, to help present a gift of a free worship concert to students in the Big Apple. They responded generously, and here we were, driving up Broadway, anxious to see what God would do next. Of course, we had no idea what that might be. The Beacon on New York's Upper West Side has been a premier music venue for decades. The week before our date, Sting had been the ticket. The previous night it had been Ruben Studdard of American Idol. The night following, it would be the Irish phenom Damien Rice. Our concert had been advertised on campuses around the city, but we didn't know how well known the music of Passion was in New York. And when you don't have advanced ticket sales, you don't know who, if anyone, is going to show up. But show up they did. At 8 o'clock the next morning, when we went back to the Beacon to set up, kids were already lining up. Curious drivers going by on Broadway were slowing down for a look, backing up traffic. By afternoon, the line wound around several blocks, and the doors didn't open until 7. You have to wonder what other New Yorkers were thinking. An MTV special, a release party for some hot new LA band? No, just students who couldn't wait to proclaim to their city the splendor of the Lord. That night was packed. Thousands of students, so happy to be there, so hungry for God, so ready. And as soon as Charlie Hall opened, it was clear the crowd knew the songs and they wanted to sing. Loud. After Charlie was finished, Louis welcomed everyone. Then we broke into small groups for a prayer time. Everybody praying at the same time, out loud for their campuses, for their city. I tell you, that's a beautiful sound. Then our band came on for a 45-minute set. What can I say? Wish you could have been there. It was so powerful. I felt as if the crowd was saying, "Hey, Chris, just start the songs. We'll take it from there." It was a worship leader's dream. I think those students sang better and with more heart than any place I've ever been. In fact, Joey, our projection guy, told me later, "That was the first time I couldn't hear you play, Chris. People were so loud." Louis' message that night was about shining a light in the world. But it is a light that isn't our own. Be the moon, he challenged. You don't have any light on your own. We only reflect the light of another. But when you and I get in the right place, Christ shines in us. When the David Crowder Band came on to play the closing set, a theater manager who had been standing backstage came up and wanted to talk. "I've never seen anything like this," he said. "I had to step outside and call my dad." Turns out his dad runs the theater, and the guy had worked there for years. "I just had to tell my dad that in all our years we've never had this kind of show. All the drug-filled concerts that come through here, they can't begin to light up the place like this." He leaned closer. There was something else he wanted to tell me. "Man, I just went out in the crowd and sang," he said, grinning self-consciously. "Of course, I don't know any of the songs, but I just felt something in my heart." 2 days later, John Leland of the New York Times wrote a feature on the event. He called it "Christian Music's New Wave Caters to Audience of One." The worship gathering for college students reflects a groundswell, both within churches and in the Christian music marketplace, he wrote. The musicians, who call themselves worship leaders rather than performers, sing not about God, but to God. The audience sings as much as they do. New wave? Old wave? Ask Jehoshaphat, or Paul and Silas, or the angels gathered at God's throne from the beginning of time. I think it's the real music of our past and of our eternal future, and it's happening now. This book is about the sound of a generation waking up to the big idea of worship as a way of life. One place you'll find this lifestyle expressed in the Bible